12th of December, 2019. Year is almost over. It's Business Express on Smooth 98.1 FM. I am Rotus, joining you for another day to discuss business news. There is so much to discuss. Benga Kamo, I already see your message. Benga is asking about the electricity strike. Looks like we already have an update on that. But first, how did Benga send that message? He sent it on WhatsApp, so you can do the same. 0809 444-0981. You can also send us messages on Twitter. You can tweet us at Smooth91FM. And we are streaming live, not only on YouTube, but on Valentine's Fancy Instagram Live at Valentine Ohu. Is it underscore? Is it underscore? Just Valentine Ohu on Instagram. And also youtube.com/Smooth91FM. So, where do we begin? Okay, so let's start with the strike. The electricity strike was called off. I didn't have any power. Anybody else out there have had any power? Nobody's had any power. I think I heard Valentine and Ayo talking about that this morning when they started their broadcast. But apparently in the wee hours of this morning, this day is reporting that they've actually gotten to some dialogue with the federal government, and they have called off the strike. So good things. Although, whenever we talk about electricity folks going on strikes, some ask whether or not it makes any difference, because there's still a whole lot of areas that don't have any power at all. But it's good to hear that they've actually come together and they've decided to call off the strike. And that is the NUEE, the National Union of Electricity Employees. Some of the demands they had were with regard to pensions. I believe they had some issues with discos and some assets that were moved up and down. But pretty much they're saying they've got the federal government to come to the table. So the strike has been called off. So hopefully we see some power being restored to certain areas, because the strike had affected a number of discos since a number of these workers work there. So, and I think they'll go into in depth on Freshly Pressed at 7:30 on that one. Here's something interesting. Oil marketers, PENGASSAN, call for subsidy removal. Well. Well. Oil marketers in Nigeria and the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, have called for the removal of fuel subsidy. Interesting. The group said that the federal government should stop the payment of subsidy, which gulped a whopping 60.3 billion naira in just November alone. Just November. I think we've already Freshly Pressed discussed it yesterday. They're looking at what, 770 billion in 2020. So the oil marketers, it was under of course, the umbrella body of MOMAN, the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, said that the government should relax control and let the price of petrol be determined by market forces. Oh boy, I mean, finally. But will the federal government listen? That's the issue. Will the federal government actually listen to the oil marketers and PENGASSAN with regards to subsidy being taken off? They both said that the subsidy should be, or rather the proceeds from the subsidy should be directed towards infrastructure. There's another story where the Minister of Finance was, I think, in front of the National Assembly trying to defend the 29 billion that President Buhari is asking for. And there she's talking about debts and how badly Nigeria needs money and how there's not enough revenue to cover our expenses. And yet the subsidy just isn't touched. So this is good to see PENGASSAN and the oil marketers taking a stand and actually calling on government to do this. But will it happen? Let's see now. What's Benga Kamu sending a message saying? He said, Rotus, can we imagine the costs incurred due to this power outage to individuals, companies, etc.? Of course, the petrol stations are not complaining because there has been a spike in fuel purchase between yesterday and today. Talk about Christmas coming early. Good point, Benga. Good point on that. But it's been called off. But between yesterday and today, yes, you have a good point there. It also says, Rotus, why do government allow matters to degenerate to this stage before good reasoning prevails? I just do not know. Benga, look, it's folks will say it's personal interests, right? I can't think of any other reason why things are allowed to get to a certain stage before there's a resolution. But do we have issues? We know what the issues are. Sorting them out. I just don't know why it takes so long. Akin says almost a year later. Akin, where have you been this past year? I got to hear my favorite Rotus on the radio. Hello, he says hello to Benga Kamu as well. Missed your witty comments. That's what Akin, we appreciate you listening. So will the subsidy look? Here's another thing. Here's another angle to this subsidy thing. for the fact that Pengassan, Moman, they're coming out to say this, is it possible that the federal government actually plans on relaxing the subsidy a bit? And so maybe, now this is me speculating. This is me just shooting in the dark, right? Is it possible that the government actually does plan to do this? There maybe they're quiet mummers where they're like, okay, we'll remove this thing gradually. Let's push the narrative out there through some of the oil marketers and the unions. Let them start saying it, and then we'll act like we're listening to them. Who knows? Who knows? But again, I've been telling people, please hold on to your purse strings in 2020 because things are probably going to get a bit tight. So we'll see how that goes. But quite a good surprise there to see Pengassan and oil marketers saying that the subsidy should be removed. Has anyone seen the results of the Treasury bill auction yesterday? Goodness gracious. Where is it now? Shout out to Mr. Ayo of AfriInvest. He sent this out, the tweets yesterday, and tagged a number of folks in the business media space. The 91-day T-bill, the stop rate was 5%. The last one was 6.4. The 182-day stop rate was 6.1%. The last one was that the prior auction to that was 7.2, and then the 364 days 6.8. I mean, you know, again, this is of course as a result of the central bank barring everyone minus foreign investors and banks to participate in Omo auctions. So all that demand had to go somewhere else, and with all of it going somewhere else, it's pushed rates down. There's a long thread there. You guys can follow Mr. Ayodiji at EBO Ayodiji. So EBO Ayodiji, go and check out his thread. It's everybody's talking about. Some are saying that this rates might crash lower to 3%. So where do we put our money? Where? Because inflation is at 11.6. And if you got T-bills doing this, I mean, let's not even talk about savings accounts. Where do we put our money? I'm still pushing for US dollar assets. I mean, that seems to be the only other place that I can think about, because honestly, I can't think of where else we're going to get any positive returns at this point. There is one person, particular non-banking institution in the fintech space that I'm still checking. They're still offering about 15% on fixed their fixed deposit accounts. I can't mention it because I don't want to get in trouble with my sales and marketing team. But they are one of the players that are offering investments and savings and stuff online. You have to investigate. Go ahead and download Investigate and take a look. One of them is actually offering this. But I mean, you know, with somebody also asked an important question. What about lending rates? As these rates, because NPR is not used to determine this stuff. I'm sorry. It seems like that's just a figurehead rate. You know, is the lending rate going to come down with rates crashing the way they are? Some folks say that the OMO rate is the real NPR. What do you folks think? Let's see here. Ibrahim Rotus, why are you surprised? Subsidy removal favors the marketers. Forget that their economic conclusion of, quotes, the subsidy is better off in the infrastructure investment narrative. They want to control the price of PMS, not the government. Well, but Ibrahim, you know that NNPC has been the one essentially bringing fuel into the country. But, you know, if that, they are pushing for deregulation. So I can see where you're coming from, you know, selfish interest. But hey, I've put my neck out there. I've already said I do support subsidy removal, even though I know that what I pay to refill up my car will probably double. MI from Makoka, Rotus, I heard there is lights at the end of this PHCN tunnel after all. Subsidy or under recovery? Very possible because the FG is cash strapped. Can I have your striped shirt? So he's watching. He's probably watching on Valentine's stream on YouTube. Olufemi, good morning, team. Please send the phone number and email for, okay, cordials. I hope they got the spelling. Yeah, that was from yesterday. It's on our YouTube. I'll tweet it out again. Go ahead and check out our YouTube, and you'll see the video there. Let's see, it's another one from Akin. Petroleum marketers and PHCN chased me from Nigeria. So Akin, you're not even in the country. No wonder you're saying you've been away for over a year. So they chased you from the country. Akin is one of those people who voted with his feet and decided to relocate to another country. Okay, guys, I mentioned this story yesterday. I need you guys to be honest with me, huh? Listeners, you know, we thrive on honesty on this show. Nobody hides anything. How many of you paid bribes this year? Don't lie, because even me, I'm going to be very honest, because you know me, I don't hide anything. So we teased this yesterday, but we didn't get a chance to get to it because we ran out of time. But I've checked the time and we have a good amount of time. Yeah, look at Sheon. Sheon is already sending a message. Wait, let me even read his message before I even get to the story. Sheon says, admit bribe. We don't have to be afraid to admit anything. Everything in the public sector is tied to a bribe that is set up at a fixed rate. And if you don't pay it, you can't get anything done. Last year, I had to do a new driver's license, bribe as a fee. This year, passport renewal, bribe as a fee. Trying to get my transcript from school, bribe as a fee. Affidavit for line retrieval, bribe as a fee. No story here. So Sheon is actually coming out and saying, Sheon, I understand what you're saying. Thank you for that point. But here's the story. Business Day picked it up. Public officials squeezed 675 billion from Nigerians as bribes in 2019. Wow. A total of 675 billion was paid in cash bribes to Nigerian public officials in 2019, corresponding to about 0.52% of the country's gross domestic product as GDP, according to the report from the National Bureau of Statistics in conjunction with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and UK Aid as well. Interesting. So the report, which was titled Corruption in Nigeria, Patterns and Trends, also shows that an estimated 117 million bribes were paid annually in the country, indicating an equivalent of 1.1 bribe per adult, with over 93% of the bribes paid in cash. Some were saying, I was talking about this yesterday with a couple folks, that this number might actually be understated because they're looking at public sector officials. And I have to say, the way the story is crafted, it says, of course, public officials squeezed it from individuals. When we Nigerians get into trouble, we want to get us out of trouble quickly. They even mentioned it in the report that we want to avoid fines and stuff, and we end up doing it. So Rotos will go first. I'll admit it right here on it. Although it wasn't this year, though. I think it was last year. I was rushing for a meeting. I had to get to this meeting, very important. I was running late and I'm driving, although I was in traffic and traffic was moving slowly. I quickly pick up my phone and let me quickly send a text to this person, say, hey, look, I'm running late. So I look up, boom, there's a last mile guy right in front of me, standing in front of my car. He said, oh, God, park here quickly. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, please, dude, I'm rushing to a meeting. I have to tell them I'm running late. And then I think we know what happened. So look, we're all guilty of this in one shade or another. Cruz says, "Versus beware of what you admit on air before they come and carry me away." Emmanuel for Ijegun. There are honest people out here who don't pay bribe in Nigeria. Some follow due process. I hardly pay bribe. Thank you. Look, we need more people like you, Emmanuel. Right? We need more people like you, Frank. Good morning, guys. I had to bribe my way to getting my international passport when it became apparent. I may not get it after 6 months of application. So look, we are seeing a lot of testimonials here from people who are complaining about, like Sheon's text now, and also from Frank, who are complaining about how to get things done and how the bribes are used to fast track the process. What is the federal government going to do about this? How are we actually going to address this if it's the and shout out to the MBS. I have to give a shout out to the MBS. Despite the fact that the MBS is facing cash issues, we can see that this was in conjunction with the United Kingdom. That seems to be how they're getting most of their reports done, because as we know, and as I've said here on several occasions, I even ranted about this on one particular episode of the show. We still don't have unemployment figures since the third quarter of 2018. And why don't we have it? It's because the MBS has not received funding from the federal government. It was an election issue. You all remember that. So it's good to see them being proactive enough and partnering with other bodies in order to get these types of things. So we have to know. Another thing they noted in this report was that the number of people that are participating in bribes, if I remember correctly, has reduced, but the frequency is still up there. So I guess it's, there's some positive to take away from it, but the frequency is still there. So it is an accurate headline, though, that public officials, are actually forcing people to do this in order to get things done. Okay, this is Uche from VI. I think I just addressed it. Uche says, I wonder how the MBS gets data for this report and their numbers. Who and where are they polling for data? Does this mean we know exactly where the bribes are being received and we're doing nothing about it? No, Uche, again, it's surveys. They survey people, and if you don't want somebody to release release their identity or whatever, it can be an anonymous survey. You can tell them to not have to identify themselves. People will be more willing to respond to surveys that way. But again, they're doing it in conjunction with other bodies, so there's some sophistication to it. But I'm proud of the MBS, and despite their challenges, shout out to Dr. Yemi Kali, still being able to get this done. Can we quickly get to the Valentine? How many more minutes do I have? I still have a little more time. Okay, good. Can we quickly get to the federal government defending its $22.7 billion loan? I want to quickly get to something the Minister of Finance said. That's our Minister of Finance, Budgets and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed. She was making a presentation to the House of Representatives Committee on AIDS, Loans and Debt Management in Abuja on Tuesday. Where is this key? Aha, here it is. So she's defending the loan. She admitted that, look, our debt, she says, okay, debt to GDP is okay, but debt service to revenue ratio is really high. Remember, the number is about 60%. I think it's pushing 70%, which means in layman's terms, for every 100 naira that Nigeria brings in revenue, 60 to 70 naira of that is just going to settle debt. Here's what she said. She says she stressed that the achievements were achievements in their managing their debt portfolio. She stressed that the achievements were evidenced in the declining share of domestic debt in the public stock, which moved from over 83% in December 2015 to about 68% in June. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay attention to this here. She's saying that, okay, look, we're managing our debt and we're able to reduce the domestic debt out of the public, because public stock is made up of domestic debt and foreign debt, and we've reduced it. Madam, that's in naira. You can't really say that an achievement has been made in reducing your domestic portion of your debt. What about your foreign exchange? You don't print dollars. If the devaluation that we're all fearing happens next year, your debt is going to double. So you can't come and be saying that. I mean, okay, it's still a reduction in debt, yeah, that's fine. But the real achievement is if you can reduce the foreign portion of your debts, because that's where we can really, that's how Greece got into trouble. That's how all these other places got into trouble. Okay, real quick, everybody's coming out with their issues now. Although Valentine is giving me the air traffic control. Good morning, team. This is Olufemi. I renewed my international passport this year. The officer said if I want to join the queue, it may take a very, very long time. But if I want to fast track it, I should pay a fee. They didn't call it a bribe or everything else. So Daniel, Henry, Emmanuel, everybody else, I see your messages. But Valentine is wrapping me up here. Chidi, thank you so much. Raymaker, I see your message on bribes as well. Thank you. Tomorrow is Tech Friday. I will be back. I appreciate all the interactions. Tuning into Business Express on Smooth 98.1. Don't pay bribes. Catch you guys tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Good stuff.